to Cassimotive, and in this video what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you 6 success lessons that I have learned from BUGZY Malone, and I hope that they can really serve you and can help you elevate your life to that next level and really push to the edge of your capacity and push to become the highest, fullest expression of who you are capable of becoming. You will know, if you followed me over the last sort of 3 or 4 years, that I have been on this insatiable quest to essentially understand and answer 2 questions. Number 1, how does somebody who's messed up, somebody who's fucked up, somebody who's made loads of mistakes, somebody whose life hasn't gone the way that perhaps where they've had privilege, they've had money, they've had resources, they've been grown up in a great sort of family background, if they haven't had all those things, how can they go from all of that and go on to live a successful life? How can somebody go from poverty, go from trauma, go from dysfunction? How can somebody go from a cancerous state and rise? How can somebody go from a stage where they're a criminal and all their life they've been a criminal and they go on to become model citizens? And I've been on this insatiable quest to try and understand, why is it that some people become criminals or start off becoming criminals and they get involved in criminals and spend all their life as criminals, whereas some people start it off and they do horrible things and yet they go on to change their lives? Why is it that some people have found themselves literally sleeping on the street, in town, in bins, and yet years later we can find them as multimillionaires, as going out there and building houses around the world and helping homeless people? So I'm wondering, I always wanted to know, what is it that is allowing these people to do this kind of things? Why do they even do it? I just wanted to know. And the second question that I wanted to know is it possible for these people who start from nothing, who've fucked up, who's messed up, whose lives fate hasn't been favourable to, they haven't had money, they haven't grown up in a perfect neighbourhood, they're not the most educated person, they haven't had privilege, how can they achieve success and go on to live remarkable lives and go on to become winners and champions and not end up divorced and not end up stepping on everybody before they get there and not end up killing themselves or being really obese or suffering a heart attack? Is there a balance? I wanted to know, are there some people who have essentially become successful after failure and have also been happy and have also had great connections with their family and haven't stepped on other people to become successful? And so that has led me down this path, of course, to studying many people. Literally, now it's been thousands of people who've gone on this path. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to share with you 6 success lessons that I have learned from BUGZY Malone, because BUGZY Malone is one of those people. His life, if you look at the beginning of his life and the dysfunction that he was brought up in, you would then not really, if you saw where he is at today, you'd be like, you don't understand. You couldn't really get as to why he's got to where he's got to. But I believe that I have found what I call keys, what I call laws, things that are common denominators amongst people who I've studied, who've all turned their lives around. And I found that 6 of the keys that I'm going to share with you today are common amongst people who've turned their lives around. And I really hope that it can serve you and can help you become a higher, fuller expression of yourself. So let's go through these 6 keys, 6 lessons that I have learned from BUGZY Malone about success and turning your life around that I hope can serve you. The first key that I want to share with you, or the first lesson if you will, is to study success. You will find that successful people understand that success leaves clues. Success does not just happen by accident. When I'm coach leaders and I do videos on leadership, one of the common phrases that I talk about is that you cannot accidentally get to the top of Mount Everest. You cannot, you've never ever heard of somebody saying, oh my God, I just randomly ended up on Mount Everest. It just doesn't happen. Success is the same thing. To be successful is not an accident. Some people have, without knowingly, done and mastered what's called the science of achievement. In other words, they've mastered success without intentionally meaning to do it. And the reason why that is because and this is usually what I found, is that they've kept trying things all the time. This is why some of the most successful people are failures, because they just keep trying stuff. If this doesn't work, they try that thing. If that doesn't work, they try this thing. They try this path. That's why a lot of the most successful people have more failures than other people. But the point that I want you to understand is, if you want to be successful, study success. If you want to be happy, study happiness. If you want to have a rich life and you want to be rich, study people who are rich and people who have happy lives. Success leaves clues. Tony Robbins once said that people are rewarded in public for what they've practiced for years in private. What does that mean? That means, but as is actually one of the things that BUGZY Malone, when I was studying him, he talked about the fact that nobody knows what he was doing. Everybody just thinks he's an overnight success. Everybody just thinks that he just got here. But nobody saw the years and years and years of him sitting down, reading books on success. For example, one of the books that he mentioned, which I would recommend that you go and read, is that he said one of the key things that changed his life was when he read a book called The Secret. So there we go. I've now given you a key to success. Read, become a reader. Go and study success. Go and read up about it. Go and study successful people. What is making these people successful? Because if somebody keeps getting results over and over and over and over again, that means they're doing certain things. If you saw me doing something once, you could say, well, Cass, that's just a fluke, right? But if I continuously keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and becoming successful, that means there are certain things that I'm doing to achieve that result. In the same principle, the other side of the coin is that failure also leaves clues. When people are unhappy, they're doing certain things. When people's relationships are not working out, it's because they're doing certain things. When you look at somebody who's fat, you don't even need to look at their diet, and you can already know there are certain things that they're not doing. Essentially, you will know they're not working out, you will know they're not eating fruit, you will know they're not having a balanced diet. You just know it. Why? Because success and failure both leaves clues. So I'm wondering, how many successful people have you studied in the last month? You say you want to become one of the biggest house builders in the UK. Okay, well, how many people who who build houses have you gone and studied? Because if they continuously, over and over and over again, are the top builder year after year after year, that means they're doing something. There are principles, there are foundational basics that they keep doing over and over and over again. Your question and your job is to find out what it is that they're doing. Most people, I can tell you right now, are making up life. One of the days that my life turned around was the day that I realized that life has been repeated over and over and over again. My parents had the same questions that I had. Did you know that my parents also wanted to be successful, and they also asked, how can they be successful? Did you know that my parents also wanted to have a great family and great friendships? It isn't random. Everybody around the world seems to want the same kinds of things. So that means people have gone out there and have looked into this stuff. Did you know that people have become successful? They've written it in books and called autobiographies, and people don't even read them. You know, people say to me, Kassim, why do you read so many autobiographies? Why do you talk about reading so much? Because I found out that people write books about how to overcome anxiety, how to start a business, how to be more confident, how to get into sales or be a top salesperson, how to become a millionaire, and people don't even read them. So my question once again is, how many successful people have you studied in the last month? How many people who are at the top of what they do have you gone out there and sought after and said, right, that person is what exactly I want to become like? Right, what are they doing? What do they do daily? What are their habits? What's their mindset? What do they think like? Where do they hang out? What kind of things do they believe? The more you learn about this stuff, the more you realize that all the successful people, the people who you want to become like, keep doing the same things over and over and over again. That's why I say to you guys that all I coach you on and share with you are keys, principles. common denominators, because I found that all the successful people in any area are doing the same things over and over and over and over and over again. Next, the second thing that I wanted to share with you, the second lesson or key, is to believe in yourself. You know, many of us, we've grown up in a world where, in all honesty, nobody around us wants greatness. Nobody around us aspires to anything of any great multitude. Nobody around us wants to live extraordinary. Nobody around us wants to be a millionaire. Nobody around us wants to have abundance and to have joy and to be a titan and to be a champion. People just don't desire that stuff. Most people just want to be okay. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. Not everybody was meant to be a Usain Bolt, be a Beyonce. Not everybody was meant to be a Michael Jackson. Not everybody was meant to be a Gandhi, a Martin Luther King Jr. We all have different paths in life. But I truly believe that every single one of us should seek to push to the edge of our capacity. We should seek to be the best that we can possibly be, not in comparison to other people, but in comparison to our potential, in comparison to what we as human beings are capable of doing. And part of that is that you will have to develop the courage to walk away from the rest of the herd. You will have to walk away from the rest of society. Society has a box about what you can and cannot do. And unfortunately, in order to become who you're capable of becoming, you will have to walk away from the rest of society. I remember when I was studying BUGZY Malone, one of the things that he talked about is you had to leave the people behind who he used to hang around with. He had to leave the group of people. He had to move away from the estate. He had to go and meet people who he'd never spoken to before, who were in business. He had to have meetings with companies like JD. Why? Because he wanted to succeed so bad that he was willing to go out there and believe in himself and have that courage and that strength of character to go out there and expose himself to things that are not normal, to push past the box, the cage that he had been contained in all his life. You know, most of us are a lion that's in a zoo. Most of us, can you imagine a lion in a zoo trapped every single day? You know that lion still is capable of tearing a human being apart. If anybody released a lion in a zoo, that lion would rip the human apart. The only reason why it's within that, the only reason why it doesn't rip the human being apart is because it's within the cage. I'm wondering what you could do if you remove the cage of what is and is not possible. Remove what people tell you can be done. Remove what is good. Remove what people have told you your potential is. Remove all those restraints. Remove the obstacles off you and the chains off you, and liberate yourself and see what you can now do. But that's going to take courage, and I don't want to joke with you, because people will start thinking you're weird, you're strange, you're talking about weird things, you're hanging around with weird people. Oh, they will. There is no doubt about it. And the people who I want to warn you will do this the most are the people closest to you. Your family members, your friends, your colleagues at work. Those are the people who are going to say this to you because they know you. And if you've always been a certain way and now you want to change, you're going to be thinking, well, who are you now? And also the other thing that you have to remember, and I share this when I teach leadership, is when you decide to hold up a mirror and look at yourself and say, what am I doing? What am I capable of? And get self-awareness, you've got to remember that everybody else around you can see themselves in the mirror. So don't be shocked, because you're going to be reflecting back to them what they haven't seen in ages. They're going to start looking at themselves and thinking, well, should I be breaking out of these barriers? Well, should I be going and doing what I love? You're going to start challenging people around you. Something for you to think about. The third lesson that I want to share with you is that start small. So many of us have paralysis in never reaching our potential because many of us are stopped at the first hurdle. Many of us are stopped at, we have this vision of the future. There is this goal that we want, but we're like, man, I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I don't have the connections. Cash, man, I don't have the experience. How am I ever going to do any of this stuff? And so we're like, forget it. So we stop. See, The people who make it, the people who actually get to the top, they say, do you know what? I don't have the money. I don't have the resources. I don't have the connections. Yes, I've fucked up in my life. I've messed my life up. Yes, I come from dysfunction. I come from a cancer estate. But you know what, Cass? Let me start to step in that direction. Let me just get on the path. Let me just try this. Let me get on the way. Let me see what I can do right now with what I've got. And they just start. I remember BUGZY MALONE, one of the things that he said was he took his driving test. He said, to most of you watching this video, you might think, oh, come on, Kaz, it's just a driving test. But from where he came from, this was a major thing for him. And so if you can begin to do what I call confidence builders. When I teach goal setting, one of the things that I teach people is, in order to actually get to the point where you truly get self-confidence to go after your dreams and your vision, you need to have what I call confidence builders. You need to have goals that are achievable, goals that are so easy, but you keep getting. That may be waking up in the morning and going to the gym. It may be writing your goals down in the morning. It may be writing down 3 things that you're grateful for. It seems small, but in your brain, it registers as a confidence. It registers as a, oh, wow, I've achieved that, a goal. And the more you keep doing that, the more your self-esteem begins to build. The more your confidence begins to build. The more you start dreaming even bigger. See, a lot of the most successful people that I have studied say that when they first started off, their dream today when I study them is completely different to when they first started off. Because when they first started off, they had such a limited parameter. They didn't have the confidence to go after big things. But as it grew bigger and bigger and bigger, and their confidence grew bigger and bigger, and they started getting more and more and more success, they started going for bigger things. Right? And that's where I would encourage you to do. Start getting small wins. The more of these that you can get, the more your confidence builds and the bigger your vision is going to become. The next lesson, or the next key that I wanted to share with you, is about vision. It is biblically written that without a vision, the people will perish. A vision is an exciting preview of the future. In other words, it's when you look into the future, do things look better than they currently are today? You know, when I teach leadership, one of the things that I tell people is that most people can tell you what the world is like, their world is like right now. They can talk about how shit it is. They can talk about how shit the government is, how bad the weather is. But very few people can see their circumstances and life better than it is. Most people can't say, well, I know the government is crap right now and Theresa May and Brexit, but I'll tell you what. When we get the new parliament, it's going to become better. It's going to bring more employment. It's going to give more confidence in society. Do you see what I mean? Most people can't do that. They don't have that kind of character or that kind of vision. When you begin to see your world better than it is, that's when you begin to move. Because vision becomes like a magnet. When you begin to build a vision of the future, a better vision of the future, it begins to pull you. See, most people are being pulled either side by side by the demands of other people, right? By their job, by their spouses, by their family, by their work, by their neighbor, or they're being pulled backwards by their past. Things they used to do, where they've come from, regrets they have. You want to ensure that the biggest pull in your life is a pull of the future. Because if the pull of the future is the biggest pull in your life, you're going to move. Jim Rohn once said that we go in the direction that we face. So if you keep facing the future, if the future is enticing and it's exciting, you will move in that direction. So here's a question. Which way are you facing in your life? Where do you spend most of your time? Do you spend most of your time in the past, in the present, as in being pulled side to side? Or do you spend it thinking about the great things that can happen in your future? Something for you to think about. The fifth lesson that I want to share with you that I learned from BUGZY MALONE that I hope adds value into your life is to have a business mind, What does having a business mind mean? Having a business mind means having the ability to think logically about stuff, to be able to develop the ability to think ahead and say, well, okay, if I start something today, where could we take it in 10 years? Start thinking, okay, well, what partnerships can I get into? What connections can I use to be able to further my progress? Who can I get in touch with? Who can help me get to that person? So many of us lack this business mentality. We lack the ability to think logically, to think, okay, well, if I do this and do that, well, that will allow me to get to that stage. Well, if that then allows me to... See, let me show you what I mean by this. So, a perfect example is to use me. I have a vision of the future, which is to impact 1 billion people to help them become 8s, 9s, and 10s. So I had to think to myself, well, I don't have the money, I'm not rich, I'm not famous, I don't have connections, you know, I don't come from a really amazing schooling, I'm not like intellectual, have a PhD, I'm not that kind of person, right? So what can I do? I then thought, right, okay, well, let me start doing videos, then the videos will eventually lead on to a talk show, then let me also start writing, and then the writing will eventually lead to blogs, the blogs will eventually lead to a book, the book will enable me to be able to impact even more people, which will take it to another level. Do you see what I mean? And I've had to start thinking in this way. When you start thinking in this way of, okay, well, what can I do? I started networking with people. I started thinking, okay, well, what people are in the speaking business who can help me, or who are already doing what I want to do, who can coach me, who can point me in the right direction, who can mentor me. When I started thinking like this, all of a sudden I started getting feedback. When I started getting feedback, I started to see my progress and momentum start to happen in my life. And so my question to you is, do you know anything about business? Do you know anything about do sales, about marketing? Do you understand how to build connections? Do you understand how to recruit people? Do you know any of this stuff? Because this is important. You want to run your life like a business. I will repeat. You want to run your life like a business. Most people are employees of their life. You want to be the owner. You want to be the CEO of your own life. Can you honestly say to me, if I came to yours and we was having a chat, that you are the CEO of your life? Or would you say you're the employee? Anything you need to do in your life, you're waiting for somebody to give you permission. You're always putting your hand up. You're waiting for somebody to give you direction. You're always relying on things outside of yourself, what your boss will give you, what your spouse will give you? Or are you taking and going out there and dealing with stuff and doing what is necessary to get to your objective? The last key and last lesson that I wanted to share with you is around being disciplined. BUGZY MALONE said that part of his success in life has been down to his unbelievable discipline. His ability to restrain from having loads of girls, from having loads of sex, from drugs, from alcohol, from gambling. And I want to encourage you. In fact, this is something that I've had to apply in my life. And if you know me personally, you will know how strong I am about especially your health and about drugs. You know, one of the things that a lot of people will say to me is, well, Cassim, weed doesn't do anything for you. It's just weed. There are no statistics that say that weed does anything to you. Yes, I understand that. But nevertheless, remember at the beginning, one of the first lessons that I said was success leaves clues. Can you honestly find, when you've studied thousands and hundreds of people in your field, or who have the lifestyle or the goals that you want to have, whether it be in your health, your relationships, spiritually, income-wise, can you honestly say that when you study their life, that they have a philosophy about smoking weed? Can you go back in time and go back throughout history, and there are people who've become successful and they attribute their success to, in part, being weed? Because if you cannot find that, and remember what I said, success and failure both leave clues. If you can't find that, which I haven't yet to find, I'm yet to find even people like Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg has never once said that his success was due to smoking weed. He smokes weed, right, recreationally. We see that, we know that. But that's just one part of just all his hard work, which most of you have not seen. Most people have never studied Snoop Dogg. Most people don't know his business. Most people don't know his habits. Most people don't know the connections that he has. Most people have no idea. You just presume because you've seen what the TV has shown you that he smokes weed. Do you understand what I'm saying? And so I would encourage you in your life that if you want to become successful, start looking after your health, start looking after your body, restrain from taking alcohol, drugs, all this kind of stuff, because it will give you clarity in your life, but also it will discipline you. Successful people have discipline. So those are the 6 lessons that I wanted to share with you. I'm always keen to hear from you guys. What do you think? Do you agree? Do you disagree? Is there a lesson here that you've already applied in your life, or you maybe have learned from BUGZY Malone that you would love to share with me so that I can share it with other guys? Comment below, send me a message. I'm always keen to hear from you, and continue seeking to be your highest, fullest expression of yourself. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Bye for now.